Welcome to another show. This week, we're going to do a show on the top 10 horror comedies of all time. When I ask for your choices for movies I didn't mention, remember I've already done 3 shows on vampires and I will be doing a show on zombies. So, you don't have to mention films about zombies or vampires.
Restore the monster for me, and you shall have anything you wish.
In that case, we better start as soon as possible.
Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. The legendary comedy duo play baggage clerks who make a delivery to McDougal's House of Horrors, running into Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, and the Wolf Man, played respectively by Glenn Strange, Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney Jr. reprising their Universal monster roles. As with other Abbott and Costello productions, they hired Bobby Barber as the court jester who would play pranks, intentionally ruin takes in silly ways, and keep the actors and crew laughing. It's a good thing spirits were high, because Costello hated the script and didn't want to make the movie.
What lovely music for a murder, or 2, or 3, or 9.
The abominable Dr. Phibes. Vincent Price delivers a magnificent, absurd performance as a doctor who's rebuilt his own mangled face and is seeking revenge on the incompetent team of doctors who killed his wife using the biblical plagues of Egypt as inspiration. The kills are astoundingly clever. The film executes the only death by frog mask in horror history, and the whole thing could have been played for straight terror if not for the campy tone Price and company went for. In a nice nod to the blend of horror and comedy, the vicious vampire bats they used for one kill were actually sweet flying foxes who were more interested in the fruit on the craft service table than any of the blood inside the actors.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks's riff on the classic tale of playing God with lightning and old body parts was an early example of parodying beloved horror tales wholesale and is now in the Hall of Fame for its hilarious quotability. Blucher. Not only did it launch a new wave of horror comedies that played well-known monsters back to us, it also inspired Aerosmith to write Walk This Way.
My friend Jack was just here. Told me that I will become a monster in 2 days.
Your dead friend, Jack.
Yes.
An American Werewolf in London. John Landis's fish out of water tale just happens to feature a fish that turns into a hairy-clawed beast when the moon is full, plus another mutilated fish who comes back from the dead. Instead of lampoon and parody, the film works perfectly as a comedy that happens to feature horror or as a horror film that happens to have a lot of laughs. All of it anchored by Rick Baker's Oscar-winning makeup effects. While winning that Academy Award, it also lost star David Naughton his gig as a Dr. Pepper spokesperson, not for the grotesque gore, but because of his nude scenes. As the Dr. Pepper Museum diplomatically puts it, this role showcased Naughton's range as an actor and put him in a light that sharply contrasted the peppiness he had radiated as a Dr. Pepper spokesperson.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick!
Now, let's talk about how I get back home.
Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, take your pick. They're both iconic, downright hilarious films from horror icon Sam Raimi. But for my money, Army of Darkness is easily one of the funniest movies of all time, which is why it nudged into this spot on the list. Bruce Campbell returns as Ash, the long-suffering dead-eyed hunter who spent 2 films trapped in a cabin in the woods with the undead. And by now, he's fully settled into the hamminess and physicality of the role, with the added bonus of an enhanced ego that makes Ash's buffoonery all the more hilarious. Easily one of the most quotable horror films ever made, with fountains of blood and even more of the franchise's signature stop-motion spookiness. Army of Darkness is an iconic benchmark of horror comedy that's arguably only bested by its own predecessors.
Herbert, you're insane! Now what happened? I had to kill him! He's dead? Not anymore.
Re-animator. If you love the otherworldly weirdness of H.P. Lovecraft, but thought that dude should take himself a little less seriously sometimes, Re-animator is the antidote you need. Based on Lovecraft's Herbert West Re-animator, Director Stuart Gordon's mad scientist dark comedy is an absolutely wild ride from start to finish, led by an electric lead performance by Jeffrey Combs as the dead-obsessed doctor himself. With bubbling beakers and mysterious serums galore, this one is for fans of Frankenstein and Evil Dead all at once. By the time it builds, body by body, to its zany climax, you'll have a pretty good idea why Re-animator originally received an X rating.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
They Live. When your film is such an unapologetically scathing satire and critique of capitalist society, you've got to have some laughs. In John Carpenter's They Live, Roddy Piper plays Nada, a drifter who discovers a pair of sunglasses that lets him see the world as it really is, run by monsters with subliminal messages telling people to worship money and obey their leaders. Thankfully, you've also got great lines like, "I've come to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I am all out of bubblegum," an all-time fistfight between Piper and Keith David.
Did you really call the police?
You bet your sorry ass I did.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Scream. This story of a ghost-faced serial killer stalking a California high school is a master of horror working his magic on two different levels. Wes Craven helped put slashers on the map with A Nightmare on Elm Street, so of course, he could pinpoint the tricks and tropes of the genre perfectly to whip up Scream, a self-aware satire that's razor-sharp and genuinely funny. If you don't think Scream is in on its own joke the entire way, please pay attention to Matthew Lillard's delivery of the line, "My mom is gonna be so mad at me." But on a completely non-meta level, Scream is still scary as hell, even as it's telling you why it's scary as hell. That opening scene with Drew Barrymore, "What's your favorite scary movie?" is an all-timer, and then it only piles on more and more high-tension hilarity from there.
Are you a god?
No.
Then...
Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is a head-on collision between two comic approaches that have rarely worked together very successfully. This time, they do. It's 1. A special effects blockbuster, and 2. A sly dialogue movie, in which everybody talks to each other like smart graduate students who are in on the joke. In the movie's climactic scenes, an apocalyptic psychic mindquake is rocking Manhattan, and the experts talk like Bob and Ray. Ghostbusters is one of those rare movies where the original, fragile comic vision has survived a multi-million-dollar production. It is not a complete vindication for big-budget comedies, since it's still true, as a general rule, that the more you spend, the fewer laughs you get. But it uses its money wisely, and when that, monster marches down a Manhattan Avenue and climbs the side of a skyscraper, we're glad they spent the money for the special effects because it gets one of the biggest laughs in a long time.
What I mean is, can you be scary?
Oh, I know you're asking me. Can I be scary? What do you think of this? You like it?
Beetlejuice. Meet Beetlejuice, his pasty face bisected by a leer of hideous teeth. He chomps rats and flies, talks like the devil in The Exorcist, and gropes lasciviously at anything female. He's a scare consultant for the Dead.as, played with saturnine relish by Michael Keaton, who has the most fun with a male role since Jack Nicholson's Devil in The Witches of Eastwick. He's one of many wonderfully disgusting inhabitants you'll meet in Beetlejuice, Tim Burton's hilarious, sardonic comedy about the afterlife of two honeymooners. For the Maitlands, ghastly wonders never cease in Burton's Never Never Land. There's their caseworker Juno veteran actress Sylvia Sidney, exhaling cigarette smoke through a gash in her throat, making the Maitlands wait for their appointment in a room full of other recently dead clients. A woman severed at the torso whose upper body sits next to her lower body. An explorer with a shrunken head that looks like a ping pong ball with eyes. It probably is. And a badly charred man who constantly bums cigarettes. Beetlejuice tries to spook the Dietzes, at one point orchestrating a hilarious involuntary group lip sync of Harry Belafonte's Deo. But they don't scare easily. How things turn out doesn't much matter, though. The joy of Beetlejuice is its completely bizarre but perfectly realized view of the world, a la Gary Larson's The Far Side, or The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was our show for today. What about you? What was your favorite horror comedy? What films did we not mention? Let us know in the comments section below. And, until next time, this is Axel, in for Kevin Given reminding you to subscribe to our channel. Also check out the Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise in the comments section. Until next time, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.